Hello, everybody. Here once again with Sheila Holm, and we're going to be talking about lots of stuff. You don't want to miss this show. We've talked about Albert Pike in the past. Albert Pike predicted World War I, II, and III, and looks like we're in World War III according to his predictions. So we're going to talk about that and a bunch of other stuff. Sheila, thanks for joining us once again.
It's great to be with you. I was just watching one of your shorts with a guy named Daniel. So if we have time to insert something to encourage Daniel and let him know what's happening, something about the permits, so we can squeeze that in wherever you want to squeeze that in.
Okay, that sounds good. So you sent me some posts that we'll play them and then we'll talk about it. Donald Trump back when he was a young man, very interesting one. We'll play that one first, and then we'll get a little discussion on that. So here it is, Donald Trump back in the day. And this is on your X account, Nation Restoration.
Mm-hmm.
The Iranian situation is a case in point. That they hold our hostages is just absolutely and totally ridiculous. That this country sits back and allows a country such as Iran to hold our hostages, to my way of thinking, is a horror. And I don't think they'd do it with other countries. I honestly don't think they'd do it with other countries.
Obviously, you're advocating that we should have gone in there with troops, etc., and brought our boys out.
I absolutely feel that, yes. I don't think there's any question, and there's no question in my mind.
Wow. Very strong all the way back then, back in the day. He was a young man, but he was speaking the truth and had an idea of the way things should be in the world. So what are your thoughts on that one?
I think he was only 30 years old. That was with Rona Barrett. And I've seen it so many times, and each time it has more significance because we've never handled this. No one ever handled it. And after that, it was with Oprah, and he was interviewed, and he said, if nobody else handles it, I guess I'd be willing to get involved and handle it, but I'm not trying to be the one to handle it. But somebody's got to handle it. And it never got handled. And everybody thinks that it's so frustrating for our military, but our military is encouraged. We were the only ones to cover. And do you know what just came out this week? And they thought it was an executive order. Remember that summons we did with the military accountability letter back in September, and we were the only ones who covered it?
Right.
Do you know people think it's now an executive order, and they're asking, what's this about the Western Kingdom? What's this about His Excellency, the President of the United States? And I said, he was just in England and he brought all those titles away from them, and the people are trying to give them to him, but he brought the titles back. We have never, the President of the United States was His Excellency, the President of the United States, as the ruler of England. King, queen, the whole time since the 1700s. It's never changed. He just went and corrected it and is talking about the state of Israel. Remember, it was all after that trip to England, and we're the only ones that covered that too in thorough detail. And just, it's so exciting to see it all unfold now. And it's not a war. It's not a war.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a cleanup.
It's a cleanup. And here's another one from Dan Scabino. So, Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. Tell us about this one. Free service allow U.S. citizens and nationals to enroll their trip abroad so the Department of State can accurately and quickly contact them in case of emergency.
What they're doing, they already got 1750 out, then I had another over 800 that were being helped and getting out. So if you want to get out of the Middle East and get back home, they want you to contact and use this process, the STEP process, in order to get yourself safely out with our assistance.
Oh, wow, very good. So they have an idea what they need to do and create a better system. So it's kind of what we're looking at. So the Trump admin is doing everything within its power to protect Americans. More than 17,500 Americans have since returned home. So let's show this one. Oh, this is
That's Caroline Lovett.
yeah.
She's briefing with the same thing, and then she said there were another 800 that they got out, but this is us helping them get out, not them doing it.
Crushed.
Let me get it to that point.
Thank you so much, Jaco.
Under the leadership of President Donald J. Trump, the rogue Iranian terrorist regime is being absolutely crushed. 47 years of tolerating and enabling the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism are over. Iran's murderous terrorist leaders are paying for their crimes against America, and they are paying in blood. Since 1979, the terrorist Iranian regime has actively and intentionally facilitated the killings of Americans. They chant death to America and fund other radical terrorists who attack our country and are seeking to destroy Western civilization itself. These terrorists seized our embassy and took 66 Americans hostage in Tehran. They slaughtered 241 U.S. service members with a truck bombing in Beirut. They killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq, and this is just a small fraction of their blood-soaked record. Prior leaders have been too weak and ineffective to address this threat. Some, like Barack Hussein Obama, even sent pallets of cash that ultimately financed this terrorist crusade against the United States and our people, while signing stupid and naive deals that put Iran on the path of developing nuclear bombs. After years of endless appeasement and empty statements from politicians on both sides of the political aisle in this town, President Trump is finally the man of action. President Trump is holding these monsters accountable and permanently extinguishing their nuclear ambitions. Future generations of Americans will look to this moment as the moment where the specter of a nuclear armed Iran ended. At the beginning of Operation Epic Fury, launched last weekend, President Trump laid out clear objectives to the American people on what the U.S. military seeks to accomplish through these major combat operations. Number one, destroy the regime's deadly ballistic missiles and completely raze their missile industry to the ground. Number two, annihilate the Iranian regime's navy. And so far, we have destroyed more than 20 Iranian ships, including their top submarine last night, using a torpedo for the first time since World War II. There is not a single Iranian ship underway in the Arabian Gulf, Strait of Hormuz, or the Gulf of Oman. Number three, Operation Epic Fury will ensure the regime's terrorist proxies in the region can no longer destabilize the region or the free world and attack our armed forces. And thus far, Iran's proxies are hardly putting up a fight. Number four, this mission will guarantee that Iran can never obtain a nuclear weapon. It's safe to say that thus far, Operation Epic Fury has been a resounding success. American forces have struck more than 2,000 targets, destroying hundreds and hundreds of ballistic missiles, launchers, and drones. As the Department of War said this morning, we expect to have complete and total dominance over Iranian airspace in the coming hours, clearing the skies for our brave warriors to continue achieving these noble and long sought after objectives. There's been a lot of misreporting and intellectual dishonesty from the American media on why President Trump decided to launch this operation. So let me remind you, Operation Midnight Hammer, which took place last June, obliterated Iran's 3 major nuclear sites. Yet the terrorist Iranian regime has remained fully committed to rebuilding its nuclear program. How do we know this? Because Iran has pursued this path of war and violence despite President Trump dispatching 2 of his top and most trusted negotiators to engage in exhaustive and good faith negotiations to try and reach a deal.
Now this is all really good because I spent a lot of time in the Middle East, and pretty much all of the terrorist activity over there is funded by Iran, and Iran also funds Hamas, Hezbollah, who are in Central and South America, have been for before I even left the SEAL teams. We knew they were starting to infiltrate over there, so that was over 20 years ago. So there's definitely a reason for us to completely annihilate that regime and replace it. Now, you had some insights on the Persians from the past. Can it give us a little bit insight history-wise?
Well, historically, all they want to do is kill anybody that's not of their belief. It's a spiritual war of biblical proportions. That's where we are. And what happened is the Persians were believers in Christ, and the Armenians were considered the first Christians. And the two groups got together, and they're the ones that helped the south to Judah and Benjamin, the two tribes of Israel that weren't taken to Assyria. They were marched off to Babylon. This was back in 587 or 586 BC, right in when those 2 years. And so in that time frame, they didn't take everybody. They only took the wealthy and the productive. What does that sound like? And the rest were left in the desert to die. This is who these people are. This is not brand new. This is not just a brand new repeat of something from 10 or 20 or 100 years ago. This is historic of killing believers. And it's always been, they seek them out. That's what the Civil War was about. We've talked about this. We have reported on almost all of the things that to watch for. And now people didn't understand the connection. Iran was never an Islamic state. And
Wow.
so when the Shah fell and they brought everybody to America, they brought everybody, not just the Persians, they brought everybody over. And California was just filled with them. Then when they did, Saddam Hussein said he had weapons of mass destruction, all these Chaldeans came and they pretty much took over most of San Diego County. It's like, what's happening? And then when they took care of Saddam Hussein, none of these people go home. But did you notice what was happening? Because right away they started replacing, and the very next day they replaced the leaders that they had taken out. So Khomeini was gone. They put in the next guy, and that guy was out the same day. We're not gonna let that stand. And I've got a lot of people saying we're at a major war in Iran. And you can speak to this being military better than I can. This isn't a war. This isn't a plan for a war. This isn't a plan for us going into war. This is the way that I tried to calm people. As I said, picture yourself watching your children play a whack-a-mole game. But you want to rise up over here and kill another 240 soldiers over in Beirut again? True, get you whack-a-mole. Do you know what I mean? And so it's like the whack-a-mole game is what's going on, is because guys, they have cells in America. If you think they're just over there in the Middle East, they're not. They're here. They're in Latin America. They're in South America. They were brought before they were born to be born in America, that when they come of age to be activated. I mean, I'm not making this up, am I, Jaco? I mean, this is every nation's experienced this. We'll put this unit over here, we'll put this cell group over here. And when the parents have the children, they know that they're going to be activated when they're 21, but they're fighting for the cause of the Islamic Revolution because it's going to be better for you. And then when they started seeing their children come of age and strap on bombs and become a suicide bomber, they weren't quite as happy as they were when this started.
Yeah, and you know, when I was in the CIA for 11 years, we were, you know, whack-a-moling the terrorists. We would take one out and somebody would stand up and we would whack him. And it got to the point where no one else would start to stand up again. So that's what we want. So that's what's going to happen with these guys. We're just going to whack them. Somebody stands up, we whack them. And it eventually gets to the point where, as we were seeing overseas in different countries that I went to, once we took out their leadership over and over and over again, their whole system collapsed. And that's what we're going to do with these guys. So 3 grand ayatollahs have declared global jihad against the United States and Israel. So it is on. A top Iranian cleric has issued a fatwa calling for Muslims to avenge the blood of the martyr Ayatollah Khomeini. So 3 very high up Islamic clerics have said, all right, fatwa against all non-Muslims around the world. And even in, let's see if I can find it. Even in here in America, we had one of the clerics say that we needed to we need to go after them. So these people are hating the United States. Here it is. A prominent Shiite organization in Dearborn, Michigan, held a memorial for the late Iranian supreme leader. This is here in America, Dearborn, Michigan, honoring him for his martyrdom while accusing Americans of being led by Satan.
Mm-hmm.
We're gathered here today to commemorate the martyrdom of the great leader of our time, Khomeini, said Salameh, one of the speakers at the memorial held at the Hadi Institute on Sunday, a day after U.S. and Israeli forces executed Khomeini and other top Iranian officials. So he's saying that the people of the United States are led by Satan. So we're all, I guess, Satanists. in their eyes. So for them to call a fatwa or a holy war against non-Muslims around the world, it seems to be what they've have wanted for a long time. Because I've had Leo Zagami, former Illuminati, who's come on my show and said that they were the the Muslims are totally led by people that are Masonic and all kind of crazy stuff. So now we
It
know that
goes really deep. It goes really deep. The whole
does go
Muhammad
deep. You
jihad, the whole process is against. And here's the humor: they're in the secret societies at the very top. There is an apron where is a Lucifer satanic apron that they wear, and it's gold when they gather in Israel. In the Supreme Court is where the Masonic Global Conference Center is. So
Wow.
now back to Dearborn, Michigan. I want to share something about Dearborn, Michigan. This is really spelled out in book 5 of the book series For the Sake of America. And what God had me do was explain the whole thing of Dearborn, because Dearborn, Detroit is the highest population, especially Dearborn, in the United States of Muslims, and we've done nothing about it. Nothing about it. So now let me tell you the history of that. God had me insert this whole thing. You ever heard the name Debbie Dingle?
Debbie Dingle sounds familiar.
She's in our Congress. Did you know how she got there? You go all the way back to 1933. 1933 to 1955 was Dad Dingle. Son Dingle, 1955 to 2015. Then, I think second wife, perhaps flight attendant that he met, I think Debbie Dingle, but her name is Debbie Dingle, the wife of John Dingle. 2015 to 2025. So there you go from 1933 to 2025. And all they did was keep moving districts. So God had me put the whole history in. They're in District 12, 15, 16. The whole thing got it all set up. What did they bring in? An entire Islamic state in America, in Dearborn, Detroit, Michigan. And we've been asleep to it the whole time.
Wow. Same thing's going on in Texas. Texas is really hammered right now with lots of Muslim they're putting in whole cities that are completely Muslim. No one else can go in there but Muslims. So
They've
they have
been building 2 mosques a month. That article just came out of Texas. And with the election that just happened, we're on the 5th. The election was on the 3rd. They're still trying to figure out what happened, because guess what? They did the machines again that nobody in America is supposed to be using. And so now Abbott, that everybody was trying to get out, got 80% of the vote. It's going to be interesting in the primary what happened.
Yeah, we should have. I think President Trump should have done the executive order before the primaries. Now we're going to get a bunch of knuckleheads that are making it to voting through the primary. So more illegal elections going on there in Texas, looks like.
Well, he told them, you better not be using machines. You better not be, and they went ahead and did it anyway. They went ahead and did it anyway, but people did not realize, and evidently a lot of them still do not realize, Texas is not free of all this stuff at all.
Not at all.
It is right in the heartbeat of everybody. Thought Texas was so independent and the Lone Star State and powerful, and they can secede from the Union if they want to, but they haven't been keeping the back door has been open, and here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember a few years ago we got together and we went to all the border states and we're like did a protesting that they needed to shut down the border. Then Abbott started to shut down the border and put troops down there to stop the invasion, but only till then. So this is the only way that we the people can win against these monsters, Abbott being one of them. That we have to basically show them we're gonna get involved. We're gonna show you up. We're gonna make you look bad, and they don't want that. So then they give us a little bit. Did Abbott give us a little bit? Yeah, he started shutting the border down, but still we have all these Muslim groups that are coming in now. I guess they just passed a law where Sharia law is not allowed anywhere in Texas. So that's a good thing.
They already have courts and they're already making decisions. It's crazy. Did you know that there are whistleblowers that know about the bus company that you mentioned about the people he was bringing in?
Yeah.
Did you know that those contracts for those bus deals go to a good friend of his? And I think you found the guy, didn't you? Interview the whistleblower that found. Because I
Yeah.
think that's how I remember finding out about all of this, was you were interviewing the guy that knew all of these details.
It
So,
wasn't me that interviewed him. I remember, I think I might have had him on my show at one time, but there was somebody that disclosed it early on. And,
mm,
he was disclosing there was like millions and millions of dollars. He was like a security
mhm,
guy. And
mhm,
he was doing all this, and he was like, he kind of blew the whistle on it. And that was
mhm.
good.
And there's something, and this is on my Twitter page. I put the two together. First, I put Kim on, and then I put the one on with President Trump with the B2s and Obama with the pallets of cash. And I don't know if you can find the one with the two pictures on Twitter, but it's pretty funny. Because what happened is Obama sending the pallets of cash is what's funding all of this, and people think that we should just not look at that and not understand that that's how they funded all of this and how they were continually supported with all of this. And I just thought this was so adorable, and I'd already sent out the one about Kim because I just think that's flat out crazy. You know what I mean? Hey, Donald, we cool, right? I love that one. That's going to be a forever one. I
Don't
may
take
even
me
print
out.
that one out and frame it. But the one on the left I loved, and so I just slammed them and mashed them together because it's so perfect, because people forget what he's already cleaned up and understand what he's trying to clean up now, because he's willing to put his name on this. He's willing to fight for this. He's willing to clean this whole thing up. Our guys have been killed because of those pallets of cash repeatedly. And to have this go on almost 50 years it's I want to say unforgivable. I try and forgive everything, but guys, we got to look at history. We can't just think, oh my gosh, now he's causing a problem over the Middle East and they're going to come over and want to kill us, and blah, 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 blah. But our
Yeah.
guys are ready. And here we are. We're getting ready.
Well, here's a little motivational clip. Let's play this one. Might need to be reloaded.
Think twice. I guarantee that they don't have a clue what they think like. I might come across like a rebel. I see life out of the box, so put me in the like start a revolution, break out of it, rewrite the history that you made, take it to new. Every loss is a lesson, that's why I never lose fights. I learn mistakes and I use them. It's my right to tell you how I feel. Whether you gonna listen or not, you don't agree with it, then you can listen and watch. Let it peace with it. How do you envision a plot? Taking everything I love and making it work. See, my life doesn't work like yours does. When I fall down, I just stand up more tough. I'm not afraid to die. The war comes from my front door. See, I just open the door up.
Our guys are ready.
That's interesting. They showed the burning in Palisades.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think they included that?
Because our guys are ready to help and take care of that. And I know guys that are fighting the water bonds, just like the school bonds in California, and they refused to allow the water to be used for the fire. They shut it all down and they let it burn on purpose. And our guys were ready to handle the whole thing. Nobody would have lost limb or life or house or anything. And the chemicals that are there now, it's just a complete disaster.
A disaster.
And they did it to the people on purpose. And
Yeah.
our guys are here to defend us and to help us and to make this all work as family. And I've not been in the military, but what I hear from the guys, in essence, their hands were tied. Many times they weren't allowed to do what they needed to do, and they weren't allowed, but their lives were still on the line. And guys were still being killed all around them. And here they are fighting these wars for other people that aren't even appreciative of them even being there. I mean, I cannot even imagine what it does to the heart and mind of our soldiers to realize they didn't have the support and that they were just shoved out there and to go defend for other people who don't even want them there. And I'll never forget. And I think we've talked about this. I think it was Afghanistan, could have been Iraq, but I think it was Afghanistan, and it was Christmas time. And President Trump went over and served a meal, and everybody said, I think he's out golfing. We can't find him. They didn't even know he took off. And so he's over there and he's taking care of the guys. And when he came back, he made a comment, and it's never left me. He said, when I sat down with the guys, I said, so why are you guys still over here? What would it take to end this? And he said, sir, we could be complete and buttoned up and ready to come home in 7 to 10 days. He goes, so then why are you still here 20 years later? And they said, sir, we're still here because we're following orders.
Yeah.
And that has never left me. They weren't following Constitution. They weren't doing they weren't able to do what they were there to do. They just had to keep following orders and can stay in this fight. And for what purpose? Protecting the 250% poppy population of poppies. That's not a number of citizens. That's actually poppy for heroin. But anyway.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
I saw that when I was over there.
There's a short little video from
Scavino?
Dan that he put out today too.
Yeah, let me pull that one up.
Okay.
Yeah, I've talked about that for years. The crazy growth in the drugs during that time frame here in America. The heroin and a codeine crisis and so forth. And then I went back to Vietnam. Same issues in Vietnam.
Same thing.
Now, back then, the soldiers were heavily, they had massive drug problems. And they never really addressed that. They did the alcohol problem, but they weren't ready for the drug problem. Same thing with Korea. So Korea, we had massive, heroin use and so forth because of Chinese. And the Brits basically did the same thing to the Chinese. The Chinese did it to us in every one of those wars in Korea, Vietnam, and Afghanistan. So it is. I think China is going to go down as well, and Trump is already working that. So we can talk about that at some other time. But let's look at this.
But if you process, if you keep showing up, if you stay patient, stay focused, stay hungry, you'll win. And you'll look back one day and thank yourself for not quitting when it got tough, for pushing when it hurt, for believing when no one else did. No one said this would be fair or fast, but it will be worth it.
Beautiful.
You may not think it's fair. You may not think it's fast enough, but it will be worth it because we've got to do this right. We have one chance to get this right.
Absolutely.
Before we begin, I think I will say a few words about what's going on with respect to our operation in the country of Iran. The United States military, together with the wonderful Israeli partners, continues to totally demolish the enemy far ahead of schedule and at levels that people have never seen before, actually. We're destroying more of Iran's missiles and drone capability every single hour, knocking them out like nobody thought was possible. As soon as they set off a missile, within 4 minutes, the launcher gets hit. They don't know what's happening. But we have the greatest military anywhere in the world. Their Navy is gone. 24 ships in 3 days. That's a lot of ships. Their anti-aircraft weapons are gone. So they have no air force, they have no air defense. All of their airplanes are gone. Their communications are gone. Missiles are gone, launches are gone, about 60% and 64% respectively. Other than that, they're doing quite well. I said, what's left? But they're tough and they want to fight. And they're calling, they're saying, how do we make a deal? I said, you're being a little bit late. And we want to fight now more than they do.
Wow, that's incredible. So the speed with which this is going to be going down is something that could have happened in every one of those other wars. So it will be weeks, maybe less, where this is basically wrapped up. There's always, you know, the possibility of something unforeseen happening, but for the most part, if the American military is given the option to seek and destroy the enemy, there's no military more effective than the U.S. military. And when Trump came into office, remember during Biden's administration, they couldn't get people to join up. No, there was not enough people that wanted to come in. They had a shortfall of people, and when Trump came in, before he even came in, when everybody knew he was coming in, the numbers like increased more than at any time in the volunteer military in history. So you know, when we are given that option, which I've seen with President Trump, we are always victorious in a very, very rapid, very effective scale.
Knows what he's doing. People forget. They keep saying it's all about Trump. People forget about the 200 flag officers that were demanding that he get involved and come in 2015. They're forgetting about the ones who knew the strategy. They're forgetting about the guys who were ready to make this happen for generations. They're forgetting about the effort of America to get all this stuff handled, because this is what Jefferson did when he was president. He created the Marines. I think he started the Navy. He created the Marines group and sent them to Tripoli. He said, we've got to take care of the problem over there so it doesn't come here. And nobody's been protecting us from all of this coming here. And that's what he did then. And it's still in the Marine hymn that they went onto the shores of Tripoli. It's just, here we are.
Absolutely.
All these years later. But remember in 2003, they did a victory thing in San Diego off the coast on one of the aircraft carriers. And Bush was at George W. Bush was out there just, oh, you know, this is wonderful. We've had victory in 2003. From 2001. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So anyway, the next day there was no difference, or any day thereafter.
Nope, because they're all part of the deep state plan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let's look at this one gentleman, Albert Pike. We've talked about him several times. Juan was on my show a few days ago, and he also talked about Albert Pike, how this is all part of a larger plan. Let's see if we can break it down for everybody. And I think this is, of all the things that we have shared with everybody, I think this is probably one of the things that people should really focus on. So chillingly accurate 200-year-old letter predicts World War III and final battle against Islam. A letter written more than 200 years ago, so before the First and Second World War, by a top military chief, chillingly predicted the two world wars before warning of a final bloody battle with Islam. Albert Pike, who was a Confederate captain for the U.S. Army during the American Civil War, is said to have written a doctrine to Italian politician outlining plans for the trio global conflicts. The letter plots how and why the First and Second World Wars broke out in the 1900s and provides an even more chilling prophecy over a third and final battle.
If we can just back up a minute,
okay,
because they're not saying the truth about Albert Pike. So if we can scroll back up, and they said he was a captain, and they just said he was in the Civil War.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to give you a couple of facts and about that Italian politician because they're not given the depth of this. So here's Albert Pike. Albert Pike came to America and lived about 17 miles from one suburb to another suburb of Justice Rathbone. It's Albert Pike that created everything from the bottom going up of all these secret societies, and he didn't create it from scratch, guys. These were all brought into America on purpose. Justice Rathbone started at the top, put together all the orders of knighthood, all the way to the Knights of Pythias. Albert Pike did the Masonic, he did the Shriners, he did the Scottish Rite Temple, the York Rite, the Blue Lodges, he did and then he created the KKK that he thought was so fascinating, and that's where they were lynching and killing people of darker skin. And he was the one that came down to the South in Macon, Georgia, and he was well over 300 pounds. He was well over 6 feet tall, had very statuesque way about him, and offered to come and help the Confederate Army. And the whole thing was a lie. He came in to do that. They made him a brigadier general. He wasn't a captain. He was titled a brigadier general. They put him in charge of going out and taking care of the matters for the Confederate Army. Nobody knew that he was out there scalping Native American Indians. That's how all this started. It was all through Albert Pike going out and scalping them, and they've already been forced out of their homes and off their land, guys. So this is later. So he's out there doing all of this, and when Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy, found out, he sent a letter out, and he said, I want this man arrested, and I want him brought back to be jailed. And so word, of course, got to him because, again, guys, all these people were connected at the top and controlling all of this. Even our Civil War process was not free of people wanting to kill believers. And so they went out and got him, and he immediately, because he found out, rushed a resignation letter to President Jefferson Davis, because the resignation letter got there before they brought Albert Pike back to Macon, Georgia. Albert Pike was just let go with no other thing added to it. So that's when he created the KKK, and the KKK, he ran as the Grand Master for the next 12 years until he died.
Jesus.
And so all of this setup, and the right-hand guy wasn't just an Italian politician. And guys, he was an Italian politician. You can look up his background. He was in all sorts of elections in Italy, but his name is Giuseppe Mazzini. And in 1860, he created the Italian Mafia.
Wow.
And he sat with Albert Pike and with a Lutheran pastor out of Switzerland who loved all the occultism and satanic rituals and everything, and was fascinated by it, wanted to study it. And this is who these people were. And these three men gathered all the 33rd degree Masons into the United States and made the whole plan to bring the world order that was in Rome with Constantine, the Holy Roman Empire, Holy Roman Catholic, Universal Church. That was the first world order. Everybody had to do the same things with each other, total control. Then it went to Berlin, Germany, and then they brought it from there. And the Third Reich, that was World War II, that world order was already here. And that's what they used. And that's why America has been funding all of this stuff ever since, because we're the world headquarters of funding all of this that's going on in the world.
Yeah.
So I just want to put it in perspective. Albert Pike was not
very good,
just your average guy. So
anyway, we have gone into your book so many times and gathered information and highlighted stuff. So an eternal plan always trumps a human plan. How to counter the 45 points used to destroy America. So we'll talk about the Knights of Pythias when we come back. So let me finish up with there's the Albert Pike Memorial.
Yes. Did you know they took it down in DC? They took his thing
2020,
down. And
yeah, when they had the what's that one black group, the
Antifa and Black Lives Matter, they tore it down. And I got so many hate letters when they said, Sheila, President Trump's putting it back up. I go, you can't forget who this guy is. This guy changed the whole atmosphere in America. He changed the whole structure in America and had this big following. You can't just wipe him out of history.
Yeah.
And I know he makes everybody mad, but anyway.
So it goes on to talk about how the document allegedly suggested World War I. Of course, they're downgrading this because this is Express UK paper rag. But anyway, they give us a little bit of truth in here. You always have to look at everything and gather the truth. And like you just pointed out, They said he was an army captain in the war. It's like, no, he was a brigadier general for the Confederates.
Yes.
So that makes a big difference. The document,
scalping Native Americans.
yeah, big difference. So
Do you see this about the czars in Russia? Did you know why they did that? Russia was Christian. It was a believing country. And the Tsar Nicholas, that's the Romanov family that they they captured, they did a coup. They captured him and his whole family, held him from, I think it was February in the winter, and then I believe it was in July, lined them all up and executed them, because you have to get rid of the whole family. That's their whole belief system. And then between Lenin and Stalin, I think it was by the time it got to Stalin, he was killing millions of millions of believers in Russia, and nobody was doing anything about it. And FDR said he liked how he structured his country, where everyone had what they needed when they needed it, which is socialism, communism, where you stand in line to get the bread to go and get it when you need it. I mean, so the czars, people didn't understand who the czars were, but it's not who Obama used them as in his two terms. These were czars who were actually believers, separate from other structures in the world. And then they came in and killed them. And to this day, I've talked to people coming here to try and tell us the truth. And did you know it's always been 80 to 90% in Russia believers? They just can't say it out publicly. But that's what the numbers are to this day.
Wow. So he goes on to talk about how World War I was planned. Now, this is decades before World War I, was planned to overthrow the czars in Russia and make the country a communist stronghold. The Second World War was sparked as a catalyst to destroy Nazism, according to the letter. So communism could take over wearier governments, because Europe is basically communist. For a sovereign state of Israel to be also set up in Palestine, which to happen. Mr. Pike warned of a third war, which the most bloody of all of them. And goes on to feature heavily. He's talked about Satan. And of course, we know that Pike was a Luciferian. Mr. Pike is said to have written, according to Miss Carr's book, the First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the czars in Russia and of making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. So that Luciferianism could reign. That's what the communists are, and that's what FDR was, a communist. It was reportedly sent by Pike, a Freemason, to Italian politician, like you talked about, Giuseppe Mazzini, and was dated August 15, 1871, the same year that America basically lost its republic and became a corporation.
Now, 1871 is also when they brought the world order to Charleston, South Carolina, because there's a big break. I don't know how, I don't surf or anything, but there's a big breaker area, a rock area out to the side of the coast right by Charleston. And that's where they could bring things in, just like Kennebunkport, where they bring people in and you don't know who's here, but they never get documented. They just come in and control us. They're doing the same thing. They have done the same thing in Charleston, South Carolina since 1871. And nobody really understood in America that that's when the world order was moved here on purpose, to get everything that we were, and that's, they put us under the International Monetary Fund in this whole process. We've always been under England, but that solidified us for financial, globally, to be stuck.
Yeah. And that really makes sense. I mean, I'm from Columbia and I love Charleston, but there's a lot of problems there in the past. Slave trade was right out of Charleston. During the Revolutionary War, surprisingly, they had a massive army there in Charleston, and the generals surrendered to the British without almost a fight at all. So, yeah. And then, we have the Civil War, where it was started in Charleston, South Carolina. So there's a lot of problems in Charleston, South Carolina that goes back a long way. So the letter goes on to talk about the Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agentur of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the state of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. So that's their plan. That was their plan for all the three world wars. So they're trying to push us into the Third World War now.
Did Juan leave it at the Third World War? Or did he talk about the Fourth World War when you guys were talking?
It's the Fourth World War because he
Yeah.
said between communism, us just collapsing, the Soviet Union, that was the Third World War, and now we're in the Fourth World War. That's his say.
Yeah, because it's been there, done that. We never got the things handled. We were destroyed without realizing it. We were brought down without hearing a shot. The mechanism of this is so pervasive of how they've planned this and how they have restructured America to accept it. That's what the programming has done. And that's why when the people say, I don't know why we aren't doing this or why we aren't doing that, the deprogramming is taking a long time because it's all about the souls that are at stake. So many people don't have a chance because they believed the deceivers. So until they understand you were deceived, come out of it, because they won't know how to help themselves through this. And that's what we're focused on, is deprogramming as many people as possible.
Yeah, and I think we're pretty close.
We're doing great, I think.
Yeah.
But see what they do? You see that little 3 on the triangle? It's friendship, it's charity, and it's benevolence. Not really.
Not at all. So
Nope.
at the last paragraph on this page, Albert Pike, a self-declared Satanist. According to the historical summary for Pike, he declared he was a Satanist. He stated he indulged in the occult. He actually confirmed that the bracelet he wore was used to summon Lucifer, with whom Pike said he had constant communication. So like you're talking about, he started all these different groups, the Knights of Pythias. This was something that I had no idea of. The Congress basically appointed them, during that 1864. Was established by an act of Congress in 1864. And shortly after that is when President Abraham Nixon,
Abraham Lincoln.
Lincoln, yeah, thank you. So basically, he was killed within a short period of time after that. Now, the FBI, who you've had great dealings with, built their little office building right down the block from where Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. So very interesting.
Well, that 2-block building had the same address, the 914 East Street Northwest. That's where the first castle lodge. All their lodges around the country are castles. You can look up in any state, where's the castle? I think we talked about this when I took people on a tour. I said, I don't want to go alone. So if anyone want to go with me, I think we had like 7 people with me after Doug Billings' event. This is June of 23. And we drove up to Springfield, Missouri to see the biggest one. It's a granite one and it's huge. And when we got there and looked at the significance of it, it's unbelievable. But one of the women was from Wisconsin, and she said, "Whoa!" She said, "I don't think there's anything like this in Wisconsin." And when she got home, there's a castle within 3.5 miles of her house. She had no idea. She had no idea that could even possibly happen in America, but they're everywhere. And if you just do KOP also, they've now, all my reference sections in my books have knightsofpythias.com are all the .orgs and all that kind of stuff for their organization. And you know what they did? They broke it down. Instead of Knights of Pythias, it's KOP, and they're not allowing anyone to go to the original sites. But here's what our guys did. The Act of Congress funded them. They're funded by an act of Congress. What else happened? They're given land grants in every state to build these big castles. What else happened? They give them blocks of those towns in order to put up all these organizations. What's there? It's military armory. It's the National Guard Armory. It's the Boys and Girls Club. This is true of almost every one of the castles that I've been to. And then you come around and it's a ball field, it's a daycare center, it's a, you know what I mean? Why is this part of a Knights of Pythias castle? Then it's Evangel University. What is Evangel University? The seminary to Assemblies of God. What is Assemblies of God? It's all under Knights of Pythias. Knights of Pythias grants them for $1 to build these universities and Assembly of God churches on their property, and everyone thinks it's separate. Then we come around the corner, and what shape is a business building? A 5-point building, just like the Pentagon. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
Crazy. Crazy. So they've
But
got
we're funding it. So
over 2,000 lodges in the United States and around the world. Like you said, the initials FCB, Friendship of Charity Benevolence, which is the motto of the Knights of Pythias. Now, people that
it
have
comes
been
from there's two bases to this. Have you heard of Pythagorean theorem? Did you know that
right,
they were training that on the internet when the kids were put to the internet during COVID? Because it was on Pearson is a company that provides free school education for kids on the internet for school credit. And they have commercials. And the gal is so beautiful, blonde hair, and laying on the bed, relaxing, doing her homework. And she's looking at the screen, and the screen says Pythagorean theorem. Who is Pythagoras? Pythagoras was a mathematician who stood on tree stumps. Where did he do that? Where the daughter of Apollo, named Pythia, because he was the guy who slayed the largest python. And the sweet and sickening smell of a decomposing python is called Pythia, and he named his daughter after that. Just saying. Hermes was his son with a different mother, and then he had a different wife or a different concubine or whatever, and had Pythia. And Pythia, so it went from Pythia to Diana of Ephesus, all the other kingdom worship, and then Pythagoria did that. And it's that 5th century cult that Albert Pike credited himself with bringing to America so all could experience the truth.
Wow. And they've had some pretty high-level people in, their organization. William McKinley, U.S. President, John Buchanan, Nelson Rockefeller, Franklin Roosevelt, like we talked about before. So,
Charles Schumer.
yep. So it sounds like, the Congress and these presidents, and not all of them, but, are, part of this cult group.
You had to be. Supreme Court, both Congress, House and Senate, Supreme Court, federal judges, state judges. You have to be in it to be controlled by them in order to receive the position that you get appointed to. And so, and even corporations. Eisner made a big deal about it over Disney. When he went to be chairman, the president had to go to Epstein Island before he could be approved for being the president of Disney. None of this is new. All of this goes way back centuries, back to the 5th century. All of this was going on, and this is what the Pilgrims got away from. They got away from all of it because they understood the basis of this and what these people were really doing. Because you don't know, it looks good. Friendship, charity, benevolence. We want to help you people, not be here anymore. It's all depopulation. So
Here we are, we're exposing it. And, is that going to be enough? Is the Trump administration going to take some of these people down? Have they been taking some of these people down? Is it, just like his last administration, it was he had to get rid of a lot of people. Now he just recently had to, move along, Noam, who I guess was a little bit out of line because she came up with the idea that she was going to spend $250,000 on commercials for herself to promote herself.
whoa.
That's really what President Trump wanted to move her on for. Of course, Congress was, they're basically outlining how, those people that were killed in Minneapolis, they talked about that. And I talked about her affair with Lewandowski while her husband was sitting in the audience, I guess. So, they basically raked her over the coals. And then President Trump's like, oh, we're going to move you over here, and we're going to put somebody else in your place. And now the Democrats had said, because they're, I guess, withholding money still, if you replace Noam, then we'll pass, the bill or whatever, and send money off. And now they're saying today that nope, we still refuse. So
Absolutely. If you do this, we'll do this. Yeah. It's
yeah,
crazy. Amazing. No, I did not know about that. That's amazing.
yeah,
She's been an interesting study.
yeah.
She's been an interesting study. And she's been dealing with all of this. The one that I am finding to be absolutely amazing is Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard doesn't make it about herself. I mean, when they did that whole thing in Fulton County, she was completely in black baseball cap, stood around the corner, just was observing everything to make sure it was handled properly, but never said a word, she's not press oriented. And I'm grateful the cabinet is more transparent. I'm very, very grateful because we haven't had transparency before. I'm grateful the president is being so transparent. He's explaining every executive order, but we have to now go to the states and clean that up. But he's being transparent. The cabinet's being transparent. What he's doing over there, did we hear anything about Afghanistan or anything about what was happening in Iraq over all these years after bomb it back in 2001 and 2 and 3? You know what I mean? And then nobody knew that we went back and rebuilt the whole thing. We It's just what we do. Bomb, Bosnia, bomb, Serbia, bomb. All I heard were country names. And then guess what? We're going back and rebuilding them through what? We're giving the 75% to NATO, and we're the only ones not benefiting. Everybody else on the NATO list is getting rebuilt, and we're paying for it. So anyway, I think we're headed on a really, really good tack now, though. I really do. And this Iranian thing has been very emotional for a long time because it all started when we found out that they took our people captive, and then they were killing, like she said, 241 with the Beirut bombing, and then nobody's talking about Yemen. Remember when they blew up that ship, ruined the ship, and killed our guys in the middle of the night? The things that they have done, they've never paid a price for, just like the elites. They've never paid a price. And now all of a sudden in this generation, that's why they're so angry, is that you didn't kill them for it. You didn't put ankle bracelets and boots on those people for it, Now you're doing it to us. I'm enjoying the process. We lost you for sound. I can't hear you. You're muted. Oh, there you go.
I put in for questions in the chat. So anyone listening, if you didn't get that, then you can put a question in the chat, put it in caps so I can see it, and then we'll ask get some questions in here. So what is Sheila's view on the Vatican's part in all this?
Vatican's first world order. That whole thing was set up out of nothing. None of that has to do. That's the whole thing. Christ didn't do any of this while he was on planet Earth, and they're calling it Christianity, and they did it 250 years after he was killed. And they killed him because of who he was and what he said and what he believed. And so the ones who did that created all of this. We've already mentioned about Constantine and how all of that happened and what we've been doing. And that's why the Pilgrims said, if you don't do this whole church thing they did in Europe, if you don't do it, because the elites in that, the leaders in the churches wear Shriner hats and Masonic rings and symbolism all the time when you do events with the churches, and nobody's really seen the combination and the problem. But it's all one in the same, because it's all the other kingdom. The oaths that are taken to other gods and other entities and other world leaders. Frederick of Prussia was the leader of the first world order structure, and Frederick of Prussia is in the oaths. Ahura Mazda is the ancient religion of Iran, is in the oaths. ISIS, Allah, they're all in the oaths. But Americans didn't have any idea. People didn't have any what is. So you take the oath that one night and that's it. You don't know the names, and you say it with a bunch of other guys taking the same oath, and that's it. And you don't even know what you did. And so that's why there is a renouncing prayer of any of you that are concerned, but Do not do it unless you have at least 2 outside witnesses with you, because you'll get choking experiences, strangulation experiences, etc. Because those oaths have power. And even if you didn't take the oath, if a family member took the oath, do the renouncing prayer. But make sure you have 2 independent witnesses and stop after every paragraph and check yourselves out. Because, guys, there's stuff in those oaths that nobody understood because they didn't know what the terms meant. It's just like what we're going through now. We're going through AI terms that are messing things up. And I don't know, did I tell you there was a bunch of chatter about, Sheila's wrong. You don't have to be natural born and having your parents be born in America. You just have to be born in America to become president. It's just like, come in, have your baby in America, and then that baby gets to be president. So they were saying I was wrong about Marco Rubio. And I said, well, I need you to tell me how you think I was wrong. And do you know that it was on an interview with 3 military guys, Slacker Alpha, Slacker 82 Alpha. They're all 3 from the military and they served together. And the one guy pulled it up on Grok, and he gave the definition of our Constitution from Grok that completely changes everything about the meaning of the terminology that our forefathers put in the Constitution to protect us. And that is that you can't let anchor babies, people who come and have a baby, and then in 21 years they get activated. That's what happened in England. Are you guys seeing anything strange in England? The people in England are shocked because these people were so quiet and the families were so nice. And now all of a sudden their sons have all joined together and now they're in control of whole communities. And how did this happen? It was pre-planned, just like what you were saying, Michael, when you read all of those examples. And it was a pre-planned before World War I. It was pre-planned before World War II. And not just Schumer and not just President FDR. Did you know that Schumer and Anthony Weiner are the only 2 living people that were named on the Knights of Pythias? The rest are all on the memorial pages. FDR's on the memorial page. But when you go to his Southern White House, that's got a Liberty Bell by the pool, and the pool is shaped in a Liberty Bell, and they've got a big stone right in front of the house he stayed in. They've got his car memorialized there. It's a beautiful car. And they got all this going on. And here's this big plaque. They only mention Masonic. That's all they mention. They don't mention Shriner. They don't mention all the layers of the knighthood. You have to go through all of this and keep being approved and keep doing whatever they want you to do to get all the way to the top to Knights of Pythias. And then they know you can't change, because by then it's death not only to you, but to your entire family, just like they did to the czars of Russia. And that's why Woodrow Wilson said, for the sake of saving my own family, I've sacrificed my whole nation. None of this is new. This goes all, and all of our guys had to be in that society. That's why it shocked him so much when Trump got through the system.
So do you think is Bondi doing a good job?
I think Bondi's okay. There's problems around Bondi that she's got people in the system that are in those positions around her that are blocking.
Yeah. Now, when Jeffrey Epstein, in his first trial, and he was in Florida, had to go to jail for the weekend or something like that. Now, Bondi, was she Attorney General during that time frame in Florida? Do you know?
She was an attorney there. I don't know the years that she was an attorney general in Florida, but they're blaming her for Epstein getting through. And what you guys need to understand is there was only one witness to speak against Epstein, and that was President Trump. Only one came forward. You can't win a case with one witness.
Turned, and it might have been during that time frame.
Yep.
Maybe he was involved in some of the stuff that he was because I think he turned, and then from that on, that's like how many years, 4 or 5, whatever years before they threw him in penitentiary in New York, and he suicided himself. No, but I think he turned and he started giving the information from that point on. That's my thoughts.
Well, our Q team, and I think you've got it right on the button. I do, because he was helping at the same time controlling and manipulating. So he's getting them involved, getting them doing what they're doing. And then because it's global, you're only hearing about Norway and Prince Andrew and stuff like that. I can't wait till the second batch comes out, because all of Congress was going in there searching for their own names and their connections. And isn't it going to be great? Because they're not saying anything. So it's like, okay, my name didn't show up, so I think I'll just be quiet. I really hope my hope is that when the second batch comes out, their names are everywhere in it, and they decided not to tell Americans a single thing about it, because you cannot be in these positions unless you're compromised. And when they did the entire search, and I think I've mentioned this before, but when they did the entire search, this would have been back in 2015 when they were talking to President Trump and the 200 generals who were working on this whole thing. They did a complete search of everybody in Congress. The only one that was clean, there was only one, and that was Jeff Sessions. Everybody thought it was Chuck Grassley, and now they're finding out he's a 33rd, at least in the Masonic. We don't know about Shriners and stuff. I mean, I don't know. Other people may know, but there was nobody who was completely clean and not compromised other than Jeff Sessions.
Yeah.
And I don't know his title, but he's some kind of a title, because he's a judge down at Gitmo, because he keeps coming back with a tan, and everybody's like, how did Jeff Sessions get a tan? Because he's not, So anyway.
Another question is there an event that you're looking for now in particular? Maybe some kind of, event that's going to make things, I don't know, more worse, or maybe like a 9/11 event or something like that. Do you see any events like that coming?
I think our guys are on top of this. I really do think our guys are on top of this. The whack-a-mole game, we're in control. And that's why President Trump is so adorable. And that's why I sent out the Abu Ghraib thing again, where the comedian, this is on my Twitter page, this is like a week ago. And when they started all of this on that weekend. And this comedian is so funny because he can get President Trump's voice down. And remember, he said he died like a dog. Can't do it. I thought I could do it. I got myself ready, Jaco. I'm sorry I didn't quite do Trump, but he's like, he died like a dog. And he cried. He cried like a baby. And the guy had it down. It was just so funny. And I sent it because people are forgetting, because President Trump told these guys, not right now. You heard him in the message now. Now they want to make a deal. Because now they've lost their ships, they've lost their drones, they've lost their missiles, they've lost their launchers, and now they want to make a deal. And he said it's a little bit too late to make a deal.
They want to make a deal so they can rebuild it. Okay,
yeah.
We're peaceful and we won't do this anymore. And of course they're going to rebuild it, and Trump will be gone. You won't have anybody with cojones that President Trump has to knock the hell out of them. So yeah, we have to finish them. And Cuba's coming, Mexico's coming. Like we talked about, China's coming soon. Now, another question. There's a lot of people throwing a lot of questions there, really good ones.
Okay.
Do you think NATO and the UN will be gone within 10 years?
Sooner.
I agree. Sooner.
It happened at Davos, guys. NATO was replaced, and so was UN by the Board of Peace, and nobody got it. I heard him on the microphone, and he was getting us out of the WHO, out of the WEF, out of all of this. And then when he brought out the Peace Board, Carolyn Levitt is confirming everybody. They're all signing the Peace Board's final, which was all set up in advance. It was so beautiful. It all happened so quick. The backdrop came down, and here's the Peace Board behind him. So all these shots on all the social media and the mainstream media were all, Peace Board was everywhere. And then Carolyn Levitt leaves the stage, and the president goes and shakes hands with each of them and thanks them for committing themselves and their nation for peace. And he goes off, and the whole thing's over. And it's like, so what happened about NATO and what happened about UN? They're kind of not necessary. But let's go back a little bit. And I've mentioned this before. This was back in somewhere around 2007, 2008, when they were remodeling the UN building in New York. And it was a private session, and it came on C-SPAN in the middle of the night. I had a deadline for something, and that's why I remember it was back in that time frame. And President Trump, as a developer, was talking to our Congress. I never knew our Congress paid for all of that. They never told the public that we were paying for that whole thing. And it was millions and millions over already, and they hadn't even approved the final plans of an Italian architect. Why do we have to go get an Italian architect and pay him? And every time they make the changes, it's another $600,000. And I'm sitting there adding it up like 600,000. Yeah. And he's telling him you're going to be 15, 16 million over. And that's exactly where they were. And they still weren't finished. Do you know what I mean? And so he said, this is what I think we should do. That building has a lot of worth where it's positioned in New York City. I think we should sell it to a developer and let them do the right thing with it. I think you should take that money from that sale and put the UN offshore. Why? That way, no dignitaries are coming in with all their entourages and having full immunity in America to commit whatever crimes they want and do whatever they want and bring their people in and do what they do to our citizens. It all has to change, and nobody would listen. Nobody would listen. And then it was like a couple, 3 months later that he came into Congress itself and testified again. And they didn't care. They still built it all. But just like the WHO, just like the CERN, they have, and just like the World Conference Center of the Masonic and the Supreme Court in Israel, they've got the snake wall. You know how all the tiles and everything make like the snake eyes looking right at you?
Oh, wow.
They've got the same thing in the UN. We're paying for all of this. And now, do you know what President Trump said? And I'm still trying to find the documentation for it. He came out, not just once, he came out twice and said, did you guys know that Lucius Trust owns that UN building? Like, how the heck did that happen when Congress paid for it? But again, we're paying for all these people. And Alice Bailey, who set up that, also spoke to Lucifer with her bracelet and was given the directions on how to change our school system within a 100-year plan from 1901 to 2001. So, and that's headquartered, and the books are printed in the UN in New York. We never did anything about it. And now, from all of that money, Lucius Trust owns the UN building. So if anybody has information on that, just let me know.
The old Lucifer Trust. So NATO, it's it's very interesting because you have you have all of the countries along the Gulf, Oman, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia. They're all like they're not split. They're very focused on taking Iran out. But the other Muslim countries like the UK, France, and Spain, they're divided. They don't want to. They don't want to get involved. So I saw that in a funny thing today. But that's true, right? And like we were just talking about, Starmer has been going to mosques and saying that the UK government had nothing to do with this. Wow. The apology tour. So they're giving it over to the Muslims.
They're committed. They've already made the deal behind the scenes. That's what that means. But what happened with this Dubai, where they said the Iranian Revolutionary Guard went over and took out a 6-star, the only 6-star hotel in the world in Dubai? Did you see that? It was burned to the ground.
I didn't see that. Wow. Huh.
That was happening right after the first strike, before the second strike, I believe.
Well, they hit the Burj, but that seemed like it was a fake thing because it was first floor. Maybe they're just trying to get people stirred up, and they said they hit they have a mall there. There are people that were there. There's like that wasn't hit. So there seems to be a little misinformation, disinformation. This is normally what happens in these conflicts. One side tries to get people involved or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
So
I've been trying to find. I can't find anything else on it. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And so let's see what else we got. So there was a Marine today that was at some meeting that Congress is having, and he stood up and he was in uniform. I don't know if he's current Marine or if he's retired Marine with his uniform, full uniform. So he gets up and says that American military members don't want to fight for Israel. So they're like, okay, you got to go. So they're trying to haul him out, and I guess he's holding on to this door jam, and the door shuts, and I guess he got his hand broken. But have you seen anything about that guy?
No.
Didn't see that. For me, having been military, I'm like, if that guy is in the military, he's going to the brig. He would be demoted because it looked like he had 3 chevrons. So I don't know, sergeant or something, but probably demoted, and then maybe less than honorable discharge. So when you're in the military, like you talked about, all those guys, all of us that were over there fighting, even though this is BS, we can have this war over within a week. And you know, you just have to follow orders because that's the way the military is designed. That's the way we're, programmed. So
Mhm.
you and for good reason a lot of times because you know, you're up against some really heavy hitters. You got to like stay focused. When I was in SEAL teams, I never had any problems with any other president. We did
Mhm.
our thing, and you know, regardless of what the administration was, we're always very professional, and we always carried out our duties to the utmost. And you know, a lot of times we came up with ideas for missions to take down the enemy, just like when I did combat action with SEAL Team 6 in Panama. You know, we would come up with,
Mhm.
our own ideas of, how we could take down different, groups and so forth. And they gave us a green light to do that. So that was obviously Ronald Reagan. So that was perfect time frame. But even when Clinton was there, although I'm not a fan of Clinton, never was, I still, we did our thing. There was
Mhm.
never a conflict. So I don't see how any military member like this gentleman evidently did, would stand up and protest. Because you can always say, okay, I don't agree with this because a lot of people did this in Vietnam, conscientious dissenters, and
Mhm.
they were like, okay, you don't want to fight, you're out. So
Mhm.
you don't get an honorable discharge, but you get a little bit less than a honorable discharge. But yeah, you can leave. So that guy, if he's still in the military, could do that. So
Mhm.
standing up in front of a group like that and yelling and screaming is like it's very unpatriotic. It's very unmilitary. It's against the American public because
Mhm.
the American public, for the most part, elected Donald Trump. So that's
Mhm.
my thoughts on that.
That's absolutely true because he didn't make an appointment, he didn't schedule it, he didn't, even though it's the people's house, there's still protocols
Right.
and decorum for the assembly.
So somebody's asking, I don't know if they're being funny, but who are the Knights of the Maccabees? You know anything about that?
Maccabees were back. I mean, that's in ancient history. The Maccabees, they're supposedly credited with forming the first menorahs. There were a group of Maccabees, and there's books of the Maccabees that were pulled from the Bible, but I haven't been given anything on that. So, but they do exist. They did exist.
Yep. So there's a question, why would Trump endorse Greg Abbott?
When did he do that?
I don't know. I don't know that he did, but maybe
Because Lieutenant Colonel Pete Chambers was in there, and Lieutenant Colonel Pete Chambers is more involved than people realize. He was Texas Rangers, he was National Guard. I think he's in it
Greg.
for the process of it. And he's declared himself. He said, as soon as this gets resolved and I'm in, my first day, I'll be arresting Governor Abbott because we've heard what has happened under Governor Abbott.
Oh,
It's not one or two things. It's what's been allowed in Texas, and he didn't keep his hand over Texas and take care of any of these things. And when it's brought to his attention, he looks the other way. So, and now that machines were used in the primary on would have been on the third, was the third on Tuesday, normally election on Tuesday. Yep, third was Tuesday, and there you go. So they had the machines that they weren't supposed to have. The whole thing was done the old way. So everything that was supposed to be corrected was not. So I'm saying in that regard, I'm doubtful that the president would be saying that. So
yeah. So what y'all think about Kash Patel? What are your thoughts on Kash Patel?
Cash Patel's on it.
Hmm. I agree.
And you're not going to know when the raid's going to happen if they're headed your way.
Right.
So
I
Cash
like him.
Patel, yeah,
I think
he's
he's good. I think he's straight up. Now,
he's a no nonsense guy. Personally, he's a no nonsense guy. I mean, every move he makes, everything he's been on Reawaken tour with us a lot.
hmm,
I mean, a lot before his Government Gangsters book came out, and then he came and did a book signing at I think that was Trump Durrell. I think that came October 20, would have been October 23, was it? I think so. October 23, when he came down to Doral in Miami with us at Trump Doral, and that was the launch of his new book. And they had a book table right in front of the stage so that he didn't miss anything, because he's one of these guys that doesn't want to miss what's going on. And Laura spoke, and Eric spoke, and it was a very powerful event. And that's when he launched his Government Gangsters book, I believe.
Mhm.
He knows who's there. He knows what to do. Guys, he moved the FBI from that stupid Hoover building that's on the Knights of Pythias Castle land, and those 2 blocks, instead of remodeling it, he took everybody out. What people may not know, and this is not a secret, that whole building's been empty since
Yeah.
21.
Yep.
And IRS has been empty since 21. Environment has been empty since 21. People don't understand. DC has been, in a different mode than what people think they know. And so he moved everybody over to the Reagan building, and it's all the way on the other side of town, away from all of the stuff that was put together. So it's just like the president clearing out all those tunnels underneath, because they didn't have to dig that far, guys, to put a dance floor in. Just saying. So just go ahead and look at that. That ballroom is a whole nother thing. And he's paying for it and putting it. What he's doing is, with the 2 flags he put up at 50,000 apiece. So he spent $100,000 putting in 2 flags. That's not just the only reason why he did it. He's changing the whole structure of the worship center in DC. He's masterfully doing this, and there's nothing they can do about it because he's paying for it. You're not paying for it. Taxes aren't paying for it. He's changing their structure inch by inch.
Yep. And we'll do this, the last one.
Okay.
What are the capabilities of Iranian forces versus USA, Israel, if we put boots on the ground? Now, I'll give you mine first, because I believe we're not going to do that. We may do that in some areas, but for the most part, I think we're going to use the Iranian Kurds. No, I mean the Iraqi Kurds. I've worked with the Kurds, and they're fantastic. They're very centered as far as like their Muslim faith and so forth. The women wear, jeans, and they don't wear the hijab. Some women do, and some women wear the burqas, but for the most part, they don't. So they're hardcore fighters. I mean, remember when Saddam Hussein basically bombed them and chemical attacked them, all kind of great stuff. They hung tight. So they're going to be probably doing a ground invasion. The Kurds are, and we're going to back them with our air superiority. And this is basically the American doctrine, where you have air superiority, and then you put the ground troops in with heavy vehicles and so forth, and you will take over territory. And that's what they're going to do. That's what we did in Afghanistan with horse soldiers. So the horse soldiers came in and basically took over almost all of Afghanistan. And it was just a handful of Army Green Berets. One of them ended up becoming our Secretary of War, Secretary of Defense back then. But those guys just calling in air fire basically destroy the Taliban. So that's the same thing that's going to happen, I believe, with the Kurds. Your thoughts?
I don't think he's going to put any Americans on any soil over there to do anything. In fact, I think he's been absolutely declaring that what he's doing is he's making Iran, Persia available for the people on the ground. It's your country. You structure this back to what it needs to be, and we're going to support you in that. And I think I'm almost quoting him verbatim. Many times he said that exact same thing in these past few days, and people think he wants to go over there and do war. He doesn't plan on sending any soldiers there. In fact, right above, I don't know if we can show this, but right above the video that we shared from Dan Scavino or from Dutch Force 17, there's one with a huge American ship, and all the B-2s are flying out. And that might be a really neat closing to this, because it can let people know that our guys can stay out at sea. The bombers go in and do what they have to do. And it's really a brilliant short little video.
All right, I'll look that up. So it's nation restoration. Let me scrolling down. How far down is it?
It's not very far down. It's right by those other videos. Let me, I can try and send it to you too.
I'm in it right now. Let me, is it Operation Epic Fury? No.
No, that's the president.
Here, let me just, share the screen. That way you can guide me.
Below Pete Hegseth.
Oh, I think I'm right there.
It's not Rubio.
There was one up there. Let me see.
This one's cute because your producer's there. This one's the one right above. A police officer called the station on his radio. I have an interesting case here. Did you see that? Oh,
It's funny.
So I'm going back up to the top. So let me scroll
yeah,
back.
so it's I don't think it's down that far. Let me no, because it's right now where it was coming on. Let me see here. You know what I can do? I can find it for you and send it to you, and we can put it out with one of your shorts when you send your shorts out. Because everybody's loving your shorts, by the way. I saw one of them, and then I think there were like 4 of them last time, and I didn't see the others.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those shorts are really good.
shorts are really good.
All right. So how can people reach you, Sheila?
Hisbest.org. And those that want the autograph book, and now we've got it all on the homepage. You can order the book on Amazon from the page, or you can donate to get the autograph book, or you can, all the clicks and links are all right on the homepage.
Very good. All right. Great stuff today. Everybody needs to be aware they're trying to push us into World War III. I don't think we're going to go there. There's no reason for us to go there. But I think Trump's got like you talked about, he's got control of this. We're in control. They're not going to push us into World War III. So that's a no-go. But we need to be aware that this is what they wanted, and they were definitely going to push us into this. But Trump is coming in and doing it his way, doing it our way, we the people.
Well, it's such a wonderful thing to be on with you. And from the comments of the people, they really enjoy it too, because it takes what you've been through. And for me, saying from my little side of not ever being in the military or anything, to give you some seeds, and then you just make it blossom. I'm so honored to be on with you again. This is awesome. And if we want to do a whole Q&A, you guys let us know. I mean, because whatever questions they have, I mean, there's no pathway that it has to be, just whatever. Here for the people, because we're going to come through this sucker. We're going to do it.
And now, are you a pastor? Are you?
No,
You're
no,
not?
no.
Somewhere
Everybody calls me a theologian, everything. I'm not a Bible scholar either. It's just I've been on a path where I had no way. I had no way to come through what I was coming through. No way. And people go, the churchy people go, oh, I'm so sorry God caused all those problems in your life to just allow them to happen. It's so painful. And I said, stop. He never let go of my hand. And I'm not a quitter. And I always want to know, how the heck did this happen? So, and that's what's fun, because you've got that inquiring mind too. And so we dig and we find out and we get going until, because until you get to the bone of the matter, you aren't there. And so that's what has intrigued me about all of this and what he has brought me through and what he has shown me. I would never be able to connect the dots now if they hadn't tried to kill me so many times. It's like, why am I important to you? Why do you want to kill me? Not knowing that it's who we are. It's who we are that drives them absolutely nuts. It was so funny the night I met our friend, and he said, well, at least one thing, at least the church is fine. And the perfect guy turned to him and I said, sir, the church, there's nothing about the church that's fine. And he goes, well, you seem like a very church-oriented person. I said, I'm not a churchy person. And as we got in these conversations, and within 6 months, he said, you know what? I think they even want us dead. I said, yes, sir, they do. But it's not open to the people, but that's why they're taking all your money. Give us all your money and God will take care of your life. And there's no relationship with the Father. So you give them all this money and then you give them more money. That's what Luther did. He put it on the door in Wittenberg and said, stop giving him these indulgences. It's not going to help you get to heaven. But don't make this about me. And they turned it into Lutheranism with that one little. And then every other division has been the same crap. And it's just, I said, it's all a lie. And Christ didn't do any of this while he was here, and the pilgrims knew. And the most spectacular thing was when I said on my birthday, when he gave me all the prices for the canal and everything, so I could finish the information on the book, they said, is there anything else you want to tell the president? And I said, we have to go to the truth the pilgrims knew and ban this whole church debacle for 500 years, because in 500 years, every family would train up their family in the way they should go so that we would never, ever have to deal with this level of evil again. That's the only way to do this, and the pilgrims knew. And she comes as a pilgrim woman, dressed as a pilgrim woman. It was powerful.
Oh, beautiful.
What a pleasure to be with you. And let's do another Q&A. This was really fun. If you want to do this again, I would love to do this with you.
Yeah, we'll have to do Q&A definitely next time.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're looking forward to the next time. Always great show. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you next time.
Wonderful.